The night the sparring mat was rolled out, no one expected a miracle. Least of all, a tired, single father, whose hands still smelled of engine oil and instant noodles. The gym lights buzzed softly, casting long shadows on the wooden floor. And when the news spread that an eighth Dan Aikido billionaire had casually agreed to spar with a nobody, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. It was the kind of moment where pride, fear, and fate collided. And before this story carries you any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of human dignity, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Because stories like this connect hearts across the world. Ethan Cole had not planned to be there. His life had shrunk to a narrow routine of early mornings, late nights, and constant worry. Since the accident that took his wife 3 years earlier, the world had become a place he endured rather than lived in. Every decision he made revolved around his 6-year-old daughter Lily, whose laughter was the only thing that could still pull him out of the fog. Ethan worked 2 jobs, one at a small auto repair shop and another delivering groceries at night, and the gym membership he could barely afford was his one stubborn promise to himself that he would not completely disappear. Aikido had once been his passion in his 20s, before life broke him open and taught him how fragile dreams could be. Across the mat stood Victor Hale, a man whose name carried weight far beyond martial arts circles. An 8th Dan Aikido master, a self-made billionaire, and a quiet philanthropist. Victor was known for moving through the world without noise, like water finding its way around stone. He had built companies, funded schools, and mastered an art that preached harmony over violence. People whispered about his discipline, his calm, and the way his presence alone could still a room. Yet that evening, his eyes lingered not on the strongest fighters or the loudest admirers, but on Ethan, the man standing slightly apart, adjusting worn wrist wraps and pretending not to feel small. The challenge was not meant to humiliate. Victor had noticed the way Ethan moved during warm-ups, the restraint in his posture, the old habits of someone who once trained seriously. When the invitation to spar came, Ethan's first instinct was to refuse. He felt the weight of unpaid bills in his chest, the ache in his shoulders from lifting engines all day, and the fear of being exposed as a man who had lost more than just skill. But something in Victor's calm smile, something unspoken and steady, made Ethan nod before his doubts could stop him. As they faced each other, the gym fell silent. Ethan's heart pounded, not with excitement, but with the familiar dread of failing in front of others. He thought of Lily, waiting at home with her coloring books, trusting him to come back safe, trusting him to be strong. The first movements were cautious, almost gentle, but Victor's technique unfolded like a lesson written in motion. Each step, each turn, carried decades of understanding. Ethan was redirected, unbalanced, guided to the mat again and again, not with force, but with precision that felt almost compassionate. With every fall, Ethan's frustration rose. It was not about losing. It was about being reminded of everything he once was, and everything he feared he no longer could be. Sweat stung his eyes, and his breath came heavier, but he refused to stop. The room seemed to blur, and for a moment, it felt as if his entire life was compressed into that mat, every struggle and quiet sacrifice pressing down on him. Victor, sensing this, slowed the pace, allowing space rather than dominance, inviting effort instead of defeat. Something shifted then. Ethan stopped fighting the moment and started moving within it. His body remembered fragments of old lessons, not perfectly, but honestly. He adapted, stumbled forward, and found balance in small victories that only he could feel. Victor responded, not by overpowering him, but by meeting him where he was. turning the spar into a conversation of motion rather than a contest. The smile Victor wore was not amused or superior. It was proud, as if he were witnessing resilience rather than skill. When the sparring ended, there was no applause at first, only a heavy silence filled with respect. Ethan bowed, his chest tight, his hands trembling slightly. He had not won, not by any visible measure, but something inside him felt lighter, as if a door he thought was locked had quietly opened. Victor approached him with a calm presence that carried more weight than any trophy. Without grand gestures, he acknowledged Ethan's perseverance, his refusal to quit, and the quiet strength it took to stand back up every time life knocked him down. In the days that followed, the encounter rippled outward in ways Ethan never expected. Victor returned to the gym, not as a distant legend, but as a mentor. He learned about Ethan's life, his daughter, and the constant balancing act of survival. Opportunities appeared slowly, not as charity, but as trust. Victor funded community programs, and Ethan was invited to help coach, to teach beginners, not just techniques, but the philosophy of balance and respect. The extra income eased the pressure at home, and Lily began sitting at the edge of the mat after school, watching her father with wide, admiring eyes. Ethan's transformation was not sudden or dramatic. It was built in quiet mornings where he felt less tired, in evenings where laughter replaced worry, and in the growing belief that he was more than his losses. Training became a place of healing rather than escape. He learned that strength did not mean never falling, but choosing to rise with grace. Victor, in turn, found something he had not realized he was missing: a reminder of why he had dedicated his life to an art rooted in compassion. Years later, when Ethan stood confidently teaching a room full of students, Willie cheering softly from the corner, the memory of that first spar felt like a distant echo that still guided him. The billionaire master had not changed his life with money or fame, but with respect, patience, and belief. It proved that sometimes the most powerful battles are fought within, and the greatest victories are invisible to the eye. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own struggles or inspired you to keep going when life feels heavy, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need hope today, and subscribe to the channel so these stories can continue to reach those who need them most. And before this story ends, please comment below with one word that describes how it made you feel, or a moment in your life when someone believed in you. The mat was rolled away that night, the lights dimmed, and the gym returned to its quiet routine. But the impact of that single spar lived on in every step Ethan took forward, carrying with it the simple truth that kindness, when paired with discipline and respect, can change a life forever.